Welcome, everybody. This is BakaBites. I'm Frankfurter. That is Magically Average. And today with us, we have BeSteveBrown. And today we are going to be talking about the complete collapse in slow time that is Crunchyroll. We're also going to give some advice that we think that they can follow to turn their ship around. Steve, welcome back to the show. We greatly appreciate you joining us. We know that I know you and Tyler more so than myself and you have been talking about it, but I know that you have very hot opinions on what is going on with Crunchyroll in regards to the Crunchyroll Awards, amongst other things. I mean, even as starting with the news that came out today, let alone last week. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
things to kind of cover in this topic that we're going to be tackling. So let's do one at a time. I think, where would you like to start? Do we want to start with show cancellations, the anime awards, or the Crunchyroll shop?
What's the
I feel like
most
the Anime
frustrating to
Awards is
least?
like,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
think the most frustrating is
it's an
gonna be the
isolated
shop.
thing.
Yeah. I think the least frustrating one, it has to be the anime awards because everyone's very much
I think
in tune with
I
it.
think for me, it's gonna be the shows that are disappearing from the platform,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's for various reasons, but,
I
I mean, Steve, you are the guest, I'll let you pick as to where you wanna start today.
I think we start with the awards because it was a little while ago, and it's a point in time thing that, like you said, a lot of some of the opinions I'm sure we have, a lot of people have. I've got at least one that I think not as many people are saying, so we'll
oh,
see. But yeah, it's like we've had time to process that, whereas the other newer stuff, I think we're going to be a little more heated on.
more fresh.
Fair
The
enough.
wounds are still
So
open.
yeah, it's just, like, just red just running down,
Yeah.
but, yeah, let's start with the anime awards. So I know that you have very hot opinions as to shows that were not nominated that should have been nominated, the process that goes behind it, etc. So to kind of give some background for the viewer, for the listener, wherever you're watching or listening to this, if it's the podcast or YouTube, a little bit of background as to how the Anime Award nominations happen. Crunchyroll gets a list of judges every year. They tell those judges, hey, here are your categories. Here's a drop down menu. Pick five for each category. And based on the most amount of nominations per category, the top six get thrown our way as the official nominations. And then from there, fans get to vote, judges get to vote, and the weighted average between judges and fans is about a 70 towards the judges, 30 towards the fan vote. And then based off of that weighted average for their votes, they're tallied up, and that is how we get our winner. That is kind of like the basic bare bones, like without too many details as to how the Crunchyroll Awards, from my understanding, are run. And I believe Steve, you kind of you before the show corroborated with that that's basically how it goes.
Yeah, the only thing we
Now,
don't know for sure is that percentage. That 70 to 30 is like a reported percentage from years ago. Even
Yeah.
even people who are involved in creating the awards and still have contacts there don't know for sure what that percentage is. So we assume it's still the same.
correct. Yeah. And so I'm going to throw it over to you, Steve, because I think that our original premise for the show was this entire topic. So I'm going to throw it to you. What are some things that you think are bad about the anime awards, and then what do you think Crunchyroll can do to fix those bads?
Well, hang on.
Oh, oh, oh,
Let's talk about the good at
oh,
least first, okay?
I
It's
was
not
going to
all
be
good.
nice too. It's
horrendous.
not all terrible.
Yeah, it's
It's
not.
better than it
Okay.
was. This was an
Yes.
improvement.
Yes, I agree. So we can at least
Okay.
talk about what is the direction they're moving in the positive way, and then maybe some of the hiccups that have occurred post these large transformations that have taken place.
Fair enough.
Gotta give them the benefit of the
Then
I
doubt.
can give you a couple quick ones. One, it's in a calendar year. They're
Thank
actually
you.
doing
I agree with
start to
that.
finish. We're rating 2025 as a whole.
You're not telling me we're not
Two,
doing spring season 2025 to winter season 2026 anymore, or whatever stupid
yeah,
shit they
what a
used.
broken system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't confusing at
They
all.
invite no. They invited more industry people. It's still not as respected or industry people in Japan feel like they're included, but it's better than it was. And as a celebration of the medium, at least the concert portion was really cool. You know,
Hmm.
bringing in people who'd sang like the best OPs of the last 10 years was fun. And in general, I would say the judges were better than some years in that, like, I know quite a few of them are truly consuming a lot of anime.
Yeah.
Not all
Okay.
of them,
Yeah.
but quite a
Because
few where I'm like, oh, this person knows ball. They watched enough that
I
I feel confident they could pick nominees.
Yeah, I remember distinctly, I wanna say it was 3 years ago, it was probably the first one you and I did together, Frank, where we, like, tried to stay up and
stayed
watch
up
it live.
stayed up and watched the entirety of the
Yeah.
thing at 3 a.m. and then went to bed at, like, 5 or 6 a.m. Yeah, that was awful.
Yep, what a time to be alive. But I know our one of our big criticisms heading into it was they released the list of judges, or at least a partial list of the judges, and what we noted was that a lot of
Yeah.
them were, like, for lack of a better term, this is a very sports-esque type way of describing it, but they were kinda like beat writers for anime. They didn't seem like they were consuming a lot. They would write articles, like, on a website or for, like, Anime News Network, and certainly not degrading them as journalists or press or their consumption of anime by any means, but you did get the impression based on, like, some of the feedback that they would provide online and through their social medias and stuff that they weren't watching the volume that you would want from someone that's going to actively be judging on a number of different categories, which is why it felt like between the AOT JJK years of them going kind of back and forth on winning, that those were the years where the pool was so limited because not many of the judges were watching a lot, even though there was still great anime coming out. So that that was something I noticed. I think an improvement now is that people might take this the other way. Um, there's more like content creators. There's more people that have a social media presence that are watching and reviewing and posting daily on like different series and what's coming out, what you should be watching, updating watch lists, things like that. So it seems like they're more in tune with the current seasons that are airing and also staying up to date with those series too. I don't know if, obviously can't verify if they've
I
all.
would say that for writers. I would say that for writers too. Like, at least the ones I knew this year who do like Anime News Network, Anime
Mhm.
Trending, etc. They are the folks, because obviously there are beat writers on some of those sites, but the ones I recognized, I was like, oh, this person is consuming like 70 anime a year. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the better selection in general, not perfect, but
No, I don't
And
think
I
we're ever.
would
No.
say I would say content creators, I would disagree with you on that. I probably wouldn't rather have content creators because most of what comes across my feed are just like content creators that are like, "Oh my god, look at this new show that's coming out in 9 months." And they do post about the weird little shows and then they never talk about them ever again, so you never know if they're watching them or not. Like they
It's
give one little spotlight to those shows and then that's it. Like
it's
nobody like I only saw there's been one content creator in the past 6 months or since the year started, I guess, that has talked about Journal with Witch that I've seen outside of our core group here, and that was a video that I saw today, and I think it was the content creator's name is something like Pay Talks or something like that.
oh,
Does a
Pay
very
Talks, yeah, he's
good
great.
Mhm.
yeah, does a very great video breakdown of Journal with Witch and shoot, why am I blanking? Skip and Loafer.
Mm.
Uh,
Yep.
so great video, go check it out. But like, I would disagree because most of the content creators I see aren't consuming that. They're just talking about what's in the know.
I think it's always a mixed bag though, right? Like I meant it from the standpoint of like rather than the judges being exclusively writers, that are particular to
Yeah,
like
they're mixing
reporting,
it up.
they're mixing it up. I would tend to agree that the content creators can be a mixed bag at times. Like sometimes you get the ones that are very popular that have a lot of online traction that might not consume as much anime as some others, but at least they have a large voice in the community and that's kind of what they're looked at for more than anything. And then you have other content creators that do watch a lot that are reviewing consistently that, in the same fashion as the beat writers too, like they're the ones that are heavily invested in watching and commenting, reviewing, critiquing all sorts, rather than just kind of reporting out, right? So it's I that aspect though, I don't think is ever going to be perfect, right? Like there's no judge test for them, right? Like there's not like a
Yeah.
None.
qualification. I come
No.
from a trading card background. and to be a judge in trading card games, you have to like go through levels and there's tests and it's verifiable. So like when you're like, I am an L3 judge for a particular game, you're like, oh shit. So you know the ins and outs, the back and forth, you know everything about this game to date. That's incredible. You can't do that with like someone that's judging on an anime panel, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not
I will also
possible.
say, I said this because we wanted to start with some positives. I was like, well, I meant it more as like some of the judges are good. Some of
No, no,
them
no.
very clearly are, and like not that you're saying they are. Like there are quite a few, and you can tell by the results that
Yeah.
watch 10 to 12 shows. I was just at least happy that there were some there were at least 15 I saw where I'm like, okay, I'm at least happy this person's a judge
Yeah.
out of 103.
Yeah. The comment was more because like I think judges as a whole, that aspect has improved. I think it's a positive. I
Yes.
wouldn't consider that a negative to say like, but on the flip side, and then I think that the
It's
direction
better than the
they're moving,
past. It could get better.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's the focal point is that the direction they're moving in with the judges, and obviously like how they're voting and everything too, is better than before, which is a
So
good direction to be moving in.
I think the only other positive that I can feasibly put into this is that I think that it's a positive that this award show is actually in Japan and it's not in the United States anymore. I remember before, we kind of started covering the anime awards, like this was an award show that was in the United States and it was, you 6 p.m. it was on. It was just like any other award show in the United States. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, something like that, they moved it to Japan. So I do appreciate the fact that it's in Japan, so they can have the industry in the same room and talking along. But there are also some negatives to that as well. And I don't know. Does anybody else have any other
I was like,
positives to add to this list?
Steve might have more.
Because I
More
don't have
positive?
any more
Oh,
positives.
maybe not.
I will say the winners I think were technically more diverse than the prior 2 years in terms of the variety of shows that won. A little bit more diverse.
I would
Slightly.
tend to agree. I think my biggest, and again, it's so hard to consider this a negative because it is subjective, right? Like when we're talking about voting, especially from the fan side, it's very subjective. It's very like,
Yes.
oh, if mine's not there, I'm just going to vote for the next best thing. It's not like, oh, I've consumed even half of these, right? And I can make a somewhat critical judgment. It's usually just like close my eyes, point at the screen. Okay, that's the one I'll vote for. It happens. It's not a big deal. There's no way to fix that. I would say though, the repetitive nature of a lot of the anime in categories is what frustrates me the most. And we had talked about it when the Anime Awards originally aired or post airing. And that was my biggest complaint was that you had shows that would traverse categories that were like that were related to the genre. Like you'd have one anime be considered best drama, best comedy, and best romance, and it's like
Oh, you mean Dandadan?
yeah. Yeah, not calling out specific ones because Dandadan was one of the more notorious
got
ones.
three genre categories this year. So
there were a couple other ones I think that I got 2. There might have been one more that I got 3, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah,
Fragrant Flower got 2. Yeah.
Yeah, Dandadan was the biggest offender. But like it's like those that are the most egregious to me is the ones that like will go and extend into different genres, and I'm like, you please pick a lane. I understand that live chart and my anime list might tag them as 50 different genres. I get that, but let's be critical. Let's be objective. Dandadan's not a drama, all right? You can consider it a romance, I guess, but it's a supernatural action shonen.
It's a rom-com is ultimately how he categorizes it. But yeah, you gotta pick one. You can't be in 3 different categories.
And I know people will skewer me for this, and it is what it is. I don't even consider it that much of a comedy. I think comedy is its like second nature. When I think of Dandadan, it's objectively speaking, it's a supernatural action shonen series. That's what Dandadan is, right? It's the same way if you look at I'm I'm trying to think of any other big one. Like My Hero Academia. I want to say it was up for something like a drama or something like that too. And I'm like, no, it's not drama. It's just a
Oh, I can give you one, a
bad.
specific example. Blue Box got nominated for
Yes.
2.
Thank you.
What would you think Blue Box would be in if you were going to pick the
Romance.
category?
Romance.
Romance and sports.
And
And
yeah. Well,
if
there's no
another
sports
one,
category.
maybe like sports action.
Yeah.
The 2 it was nominated for were drama and slice of life.
Yep.
That is not primarily what that show is.
No. And
Nope.
and like that's where my criticisms scream the loudest. And I don't even know if it falls on judges, because judges are the first line, right? Like we just kind of walk through. Judges are, they pick 5 out of a slew of 20 or whatever, right? They pick their 5 from the entire pool. That's dwindled down to 6 per category based on all the feedback the judges give. And then you get into the second round of voting, which is where the fans and the judges vote for the winners, respective winners, right? So it's like, do you blame the judges because they're the initial screeners? Do you blame Crunchyroll for like the series they put in front of them? Like, but and then it's like, do you
it's a drop down list?
No, I 100% agree. But then like I also, we're gonna do it by percentages. It's like 70% Crunchyroll's fault, okay? Because they're the first, they're the ones that are originating the list, okay? It's 20% judges' fault, because I also trust the judges to look at this critically and go, why the hell is Dandadan nominated for best drama? What is going on?
Because it's a drop down list of like 40 titles, so they're dropping down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they're
Dandadan, like, oh, I'm going to nominate this.
Exactly. So 20% is on the judges, and then I leave 10% for the fans, because again, if you're in love with a medium like you are with anime, and you are able to think critically and judge things from an objective viewpoint, because this is the one situation where you have to put your biases aside. That's kind of the point of a an award ceremony like this, right? Is like you're trying to award what is objectively seen as being the best of blank insert category, right? 10% has to go to the fans, because you look at them and you go, how in God's green earth do you name certain anime the winner of this category? Please explain to me.
You're telling me that Demon Slayer isn't the best fantasy anime?
Ah, God. Yeah,
it's because people vote for what they like, not for what fits the category, which is the recurring. That's the recurring issue for everything about fans, is you're voting based on what you like, not what fits.
That's why I give 10% blame to them, right? Because again, it's for a lot, it's hard to take out your bias. For a lot, sometimes you're only watching 10, maybe 5 anime in a season, right? Or not even a season, a year, right? Sometimes it's just, but you want to be involved. It's community fitted that fans vote, right? I appreciate that. I really love that aspect of the Crunchyroll rewards. That's one thing that we can talk about too, I think is a positive, is that getting fans involved is meant to be a community driven, portion of this, to ensure that like we as a collective are voicing our opinions on this. You can say it's wrong for XYZ reason, but at least that aspect is helpful. I do think that, and maybe I'm cutting too close because we have to go to our what's bad about them.
We'll keep it moving along. Yeah.
All right, I'll save my big thoughts for later. Fine.
No,
we can pivot that into a negative, because we're talking about 70% of it's Crunchyroll, and I think one of the main concerns around that in general, but also best direction, best background, are all those categories of technical nature are not defined in any way for the judges.
Nope.
Or for the fans. Not that you can necessarily trust fans to read it, but like the whole thing where solo leveling won last year for season 2, even though season 1 was eligible, because they didn't say, hey, please don't vote on season 2. There's no direction given.
Right.
A bunch of people don't know how to judge direction. A bunch of people don't know how to judge background art. And if you don't tell them this is what a drama means, then it's just up to whatever they decide a drama means.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because for the fan voting, they actually do spell out what the definition of each category was. At least they did.
It's true,
but you had to click an extra box in order to get to it. It's a little info.
Tiny little info, and it's not even a click. You just drag your mouse over it, and it's a tiny little info box, like a little tiny asterisk right next to the category.
We put the information in front of you if you happen to accidentally find it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think that brings up a really good point, that like there are components to the anime awards that are strictly speaking, technical in nature, right? I think background art, I think people are going to yell and scream. I don't care. I think animation even is
I mean,
truly technical.
1000% animation really upsets me. It's a technical award, and people think it's a fight scene.
Same thing,
Yep.
in my opinion, character design. I think that's technical as
Correct.
well. There's, I think that again is lends itself to my biggest suggestion, which we can get to later. But there are certain aspects of the Crunchyroll Awards where it almost you want to go to the execs at Crunchyroll and go, look, you need to come to a strategic decision on this. Do you want it to be fan heavy, community focused, like popularity award show? Which I mean, you're gonna call it like it is. It's a popularity award show, or do you want it to be classified? This is very pompous to say, but do you want it to be something classified like the movie awards in the United States? Like, do you want it to be like a Golden Globe or an Emmy or an Oscar or whatever? Like,
Do you
I'm
want it to be
obvious.
taken seriously?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a critical question that needs to be asked and answered for us to actually get anywhere, get these awards moving in a positive direction anytime soon. Because I think that's
In
the
my
biggest hang up right now.
in my opinion, though, and I think that it's not one or the other. I think well, not necessarily like fan or taken seriously. I think that for them to be taken seriously, I don't think they can structure it based off of a awards ceremony show, etc., that is done in the United States, because fundamentally Japan is a different culture than the United States. Putting a business person up on a stage to receive an award and then expect them to speak is mortifying for them. It like the first time they did
Especially
that,
when Megan the Stallion's given the award.
yeah, the first time they did that, like the person on the stage was like, "Wait, I have to talk?"
Yeah.
and was utterly taken aback and just like, "Oh no." Like you could see the fear in their eyes. It's like I think that if you do want to make a serious awards, show ceremony, whatever you want to call it, there needs to be a happy medium between respecting Japanese culture and who they are as people, and what we do in the West. I don't think that you can just take an Academy Awards and just call it a day. I think kind of on that point, one of the negatives that I do want to talk about, and one of the things that I think that they need to fix ASAP, is the pre-show. I think that doing the pre-show is fine. I think that having interviews with the people who come through would be fine. I think that is all hunky dory. That's okay. They bring in their guest people from the West to talk to them, do silly games. That's great. Handing out awards in the pre-show is fucking horrendous. I think that is
Yeah.
the biggest fault that Crunchyroll's had with these awards. Period. Full stop. Other than judging, but like to me, that is the most frustrating part because we were like,
Do you
"Hey,
take
we're
it like
gonna
the
hop
Game
on."
Awards where they're like, "Hey, these aren't important. We're gonna do them like in an ad break,
Exactly.
basically."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just like, why are we doing this? Like, I don't understand because at the same time, when you get to the award show, it's either A, just a little bit longer than the pre-show was, or B, like they're not really necessarily filling dead air with like new trailers for anything. They're just kind of going from award to like a song to dead air for whatever reason. Maybe it's being aired in Japan, they have commercials in Japan. But like for the viewers out here, it's just like a lot of waiting around, sitting around with nothing happening. And I think that they need to fix that in a sort of way. It's like, yeah, as you said, you want to have it as the Game Awards where, hey, you hand out an award, here's 15 trailers for or like, 10 trailers for things coming out, here's the next big award, etc. But for me, the way they're doing it now, handing out awards in the pre-show is horrendous. I think that is a tragedy to this awards show.
I mean,
It really is because some of the bigger, categories like those, I know we were highly contested on like the, best romance, best isekai, whatever. Those were being handed out on the pre-show. Like it is like, hey, these are supposed to be some of the bigger ones. Like the voice acting, sure, I get, but having best comedy, best drama, best action, best whatever in the pre-show is really frustrating because those are the categories that I personally and a lot of others are looking for. And to just be like, "Oh, no, they were handed out an hour ago before the awards actually happened," is just ridiculous.
I think that lends itself more to maybe not production is the right way, but
It is. It's a production. It's a production thing.
yeah.
They pre-record a fair amount of stuff. Like when they jump from the actual award show, and then they're like, "And now we're going to go to a quick interview someone did on the carpet." Those are pre-recorded so that they
Yeah.
can clear the stage, prep the next one. It is a production issue.
Which is
I don't agree with it.
I think so. My thoughts on it are that it just comes across as disingenuous at times. I remember distinctly, I think 2 years ago we were watching it, and the two, I don't know how better to describe them other than figureheads for Crunchyroll on their social media, and I'm blanking on their names, and I do apologize.
Lauren and Tim.
Thank you.
Lauren and Tim. Yeah.
They were on the red carpet just chatting, and no joke, like mid conversation, they were like, "Oh, and the best blank goes to this," and it was like midstream of just talking with people or about a separate topic. They went, by the way, this just won, and then segued into something else. And I think that's disrespectful in a multitude of ways. I think you can do it in a fashion that obviously gives credit to whomever won. Again, if it's like a voice actor or if it's a production team or creator, whomever. And then I think, too, they could at least, if they are doing it pre-recorded, if they are doing it on the red carpet or the orange carpet or whatever, you can still do it in a way that gives it impact and makes it seem meaningful. Like, it's not...
Stick it in the main show. Use that as your cutaway. And we're going to cut away to, hey, we can't do them all on stage. We recorded it, but we're showing it during the main show.
Yeah.
Again,
I'm coming from someone with no background in production or anything of the likes, right? Like, this is just simply me as a viewer, someone that's observing and digesting it and kind of critiquing it as I see it go on. That's just the one big glaring issue. Like, I understand that you can't fit everything in. I get it, but you can still present it in a way that gives it the time and appreciated moment of actually getting this award, right? Which lends itself to my bigger comments on, do you want this to be just a half-assed second-rate award ceremony, or do you want it to be looked at as something that's serious that people should be striving for? Like, creators should be striving for, production companies should be striving for. Because part of our conversation in a prior episode, when we were talking about symposium reports, and the reason why we did the episode on it is because one of the execs for, I think, Wit Studio, and they're also the exec or head director for somewhere else, I can't remember.
George Wada.
Yes, thank you. Wow, you're pulling stuff off the top of your head. Good. God damn, man.
I remember him because he makes some interesting statements. He's also production IG.
Yeah,
I can't do all of them. I just remember George.
You're on top of it though. Regardless, good on you. Yeah, I mean, the reason why we did the episode on it is because his comments during the symposium were basically Japan needs their own award ceremony. Like, we need something equivalent to the Crunchyroll Awards for Japan, for anime only, like specifically for anime. And that's what spurred the larger conversation, is because it's like, it's one of the realizations, because many people might not know the fact that Japan doesn't have its own dedicated awards for anime like we do, in the Crunchyroll Awards. But then two, it gives up the larger questioning of, why the hell does Japan not have this? like, isn't that...
Awards aren't as big of a thing in their culture, weirdly.
It's
They're not included. They don't vote.
Yeah,
you say that, and then they have like the stationary awards every year, and it's just like,
hey, now, don't you fucking make fun of stationary awards.
I'm not saying I'm making fun of
it,
but you're saying that like
no, but it's not a larger. It's not a
thing,
production. It's not a production.
That's a fair point from Frank.
I see what you're saying. Okay,
there are two manga awards. There's the Tsugi Next Manga Awards, and then Anime Japan does manga awards.
I see what you're saying.
I think,
but they're not ceremonial. They're the Next Manga Awards is entirely online, and then the Anime Japan one they announce online 2 weeks before, and then they have like some boards essentially that you can see who won. There's no production to it.
This is off,
and I think
I was going to say real quick.
I was going to say we need to stay on topic here, so I'm going to segue
real quick. I was going to say off the cuff, I think there are manga awards for like different regions as well. Like, each region will have something specific to manga awards, I want to say, because based on like the production companies that are there. Again, I remember reading something a long time ago about that. But to your point though, it's non-ceremonious. they're very humble. They don't want to go in front of people. It goes to your last comment, Frank, on like the fact that guy shit his pants on stage. It's because like it's not
Yeah.
that's not a part of their culture. But yeah, I think that lends itself to larger conversation about they need to pick a lane, they need to figure this out, they need to find an identity.
And
Correct.
if I
And
can just
then
add to that very quick,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
know you
yeah.
want to move on, Frank. The part about Japan not having their own, I think they should,
Yeah.
because we have the Academy Awards. Japan has their own film awards, and other countries do
Yep.
as well. Japanese people aren't voting in the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. They don't even have access at Crunchyroll.
Yep.
So and also I know George Wada was saying we need one more industry driven where it's like the Academy Awards and animators are voting. Like that's fine. They should
Yes.
have their own,
And
and it
that
would be more
that
serious.
was that was going to be my segue as to how do we fix the voting and how do we fix the judges, because that is the overall topic I feel like we really wanted to dig into, and I think that should be the what you're saying, separate it, open
Split
up
it
the
up,
booty hole and get right in there.
rip it apart,
Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
dive in.
Do it like Reddit. Do it like Reddit. I love the Reddit Anime Awards because there's jury awards, and the jury are very qualified in their requirements, and they have in-person conversations where they don't all have to agree, but they have to discuss and at least justify for like
Right.
to sway each other. It's like 15 people per category. You don't vote on every category, and then the fan vote is separate, and they're both recognized, and then Reddit sends out notifications to the winners for both, and they get responses from for fan vote and jury vote, being like, "Thank you, this is great, we appreciate it." They should be separate.
Ding.
No other
Yeah.
award show, no other major respected award show has fan voting involved. And you
Fucking
can raise arguments about experts, but like they shouldn't be the same.
ding.
The only one that does is the Game Awards, which it's just one singular category, which
I
is
said
fine.
what I said.
One
Frank.
singular category,
Jeff
Franklin.
Keighley's gonna
and
hear this.
and that category is a joke. Remember when is it the Oscars where they tried like the most anticipated, or like the fan vote, and like Avengers won or something? Like
Yeah.
obviously fans most of the populace watches the most popular things. Obviously they don't watch
Right.
most anime, and they, not to be rude, just aren't qualified to say what the best anime were if they watched 4% of the anime that came out that year. And I don't
100
expect most people to. There's no expectation.
150 bajillion
So
percent agree.
I agree. But now how, breaking this down even further, how do we fix how to nominate who to judge? So
That's
here's
no
I'm just gonna
time
throw
out.
out
Hang on. No, you can't.
no
We can't fix that. How you nominate who can judge?
yeah,
You
You
can't.
mean how Crunchyroll just picks their judges, essentially?
correct. How they
There's-
pick their judges and who's should be judging. And this is and I'm gonna spell out my thoughts on who I think and how they should handle this. Sorry. I think, and I know that we just discussed the Game Awards and how interesting that could be. I think they handle it the best, in all honesty. They give outlets one vote each. Like, so you can come together as an outlet and discuss and submit your votes. That's great. And then they give out voting recognitions to the studios. I don't know if it's a multiple amount of votes per studio or if it's just one per studio, but giving them to just people who are in studios that make the actual anime. I don't think you have any guest appearances from The Weekend or anything making votes and everything like that. I think you just have people who are in the studios that are making the anime, and then a handful of reputable outlets who come together and discuss as a team what they are going to vote for.
I agree in part. I would just simply remove your first bit. I think, again, if the focus is on, if what we're saying is that the way to fix the Anime Awards is to make it serious, is to make it reputable in the sense of this is truly the icon or the embodiment of what the like top anime are in terms of the awards that are given out, right? If we're saying that that's the direction we want it to go, the way we fix it now is to simply give the entire judging panel to those that are making the fucking anime, and that's it. I'm talking
So then,
directors,
counterpoint to
I'm
you.
talking the mangaka, I'm talking the anime, everyone that's in the anime industry, give them
Well,
judging
I will
panel.
say what you're talking about, which I'm not opposed to in an award ceremony, is the Japan Anime Awards. That's what George
Yeah,
Wada wants. I think that's totally separate from what the Crunchyroll Anime Awards ever could be, because I
and
don't think anybody in the West would care about that.
But
that was going to
also,
be my
Not
point.
anybody, but you know what I mean.
But that was going to be my
right, but
point. Like,
my counterpoint to that and why I don't think that would work is especially because, and please, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. There are, I believe, some people, like some directors, higher ups, etc., that get bonuses based off of awards and what awards they win. So, what is it to stop that? If a studio gets X amount of
I
votes
don't think
because
Japan
they're
does that.
bigger than,
I
Will
don't.
say I don't think Japan does that.
okay,
Typically, the way that the production committee model works is you're just paid an agreed upon amount at the time that you agree to animate it, and then if you're on the production committee, based on your rank, it's literally based on your position in the committee of how much you invested in your position. You get paid out that much, and usually, if an animation studio is on it, you're low. You're getting a low percentage.
okay,
There could be agreements for performance, but that's certainly not anything I've ever heard of.
okay.
And
Because again, like if there
It'd be
is,
nice if they did that like the West, but I don't believe they do anything. I get your point though of
what's to
impartiality.
stop them from just, yeah, just voting for their own thing?
I will.
Even if it did, I would say what would stop them is their one vote.
Yeah,
But it's a fair point. Um,
That's to say that,
if I could,
they only do have one vote. That what's to stop,
true.
Crunchyroll from saying like, "Hey, why does Wit's vote, one vote count as much as Queen Bee's one vote?" Like that doesn't make kind of really
So
any like
I have one major issue with this idea, and not the idea itself. Like I think this works for a Japan award because the Crunchyroll Anime Awards is targeted at the Western audience. I think it would be hard for people to accept, and also I don't think it would be truly representative to mostly have people in Japan voting because the West consumes anime differently and likes certain anime differently. Not all the time, but in many cases,
right.
something might be popular in the West and not in Japan, or vice versa. Which is why I'm okay with there being reputable outlets, some content creators who consume a lot. I just think there should be requirements like Reddit and Anime Trending and Anime News Network do, where they're like, hey, please confirm you at least watched like 40, 50 shows this season. The two things I
Yeah.
would do, one is you get to vote in a couple categories. You don't vote in everything. Like people who aren't don't understand the technical categories should not be voting in technical categories. And to be fair, I also find that hard. Judging direction is confusing. The
Right.
most important one, though, is 103 judges is too many judges because statistically you work to the mean. That was insane that they had 103 judges, and that's why the nominees largely always end up the same. Is there's too many people voting, and even if 30 of them were like, "Hey, I actually watched Orb. Orb was amazing. Orb should be nominated for Anime of the Year." The other 75 didn't watch it, and so they couldn't possibly nominate it. And the shows that everybody watched are just more likely to show up. You need a smaller pool of judges, and that's why most other awards ceremonies for anime will have a jury of 12 to 20 people. And that's why you could do by category and not literally everybody votes in everything. It's just too
Yeah.
many. Statistically, this will always happen every year with 100 judges.
I think my one comment to that, because I would agree in part. I think bifurcating the judges based on their knowledge of particular categories, one, introduces the potential not only for not bias but more subjectivity. I think it
It's fair.
where someone that might not have the technical background or even just like the general knowledge to a degree of that particular category might not appreciate or understand certain things that those that are considered more in tune with the category would have. Um, I
I was
think
more thinking in the sense of like you don't want Jimmy Putz a lot who only watches Action Shonen voting on romance, and he's like, I don't know
no,
any,
yeah,
but my friend said Blue Box was good.
trust me,
That's more. There's definitely holes in the theory.
I agree. No,
Yeah.
I agree. But I think that lends itself to my final point on this, which is I don't think there truly is a way to resolve this particular aspect of the Crunchyroll Awards. I think
I've got one way to solve it. One way. You
okay.
have 20 categories, you as a judge, you get 10 votes across all 20 categories. So you pick whichever categories it is that you know the most of.
So issue immediately.
You,
What if you have 50 judges and all 50 of them are like, "Well, I don't have any knowledge on the best Hindi voice actor, so I'm just not going to vote."
or just even like romance. A bunch of them
Yeah.
didn't watch
Like
romance.
3
I think
voted
that's
on
fair.
romance.
Yeah, but then you get the
Yeah.
romance people who don't vote on action and they vote the other
But I think
categories.
the
Let, let
point
me
is
let me caveat what I said earlier. The like bifurcating for the genres. Bifurcate the like anime of the year. Like some of those like obvious ones you can let everybody vote in, but there's just certain ones where I think if you asked people honestly, like, hey, did you watch a bunch of romance this year to vote on it? A bunch of them would be like, no, actually, I probably shouldn't be voting in this. But like when you fill in the form, you got to pick something. So they just pick
So
something.
maybe
here's a
so
thought.
how about maybe make a Google sheet beforehand and be like, "Did you
Google
watch
sheet.
X amount of romance shows? Yes, no." And if you put no, you
That,
don't get a vote.
I like okay, in principle, yes. I don't want to
yeah, it's hard.
I
It's definitely harder.
I don't want to crush your Santa Claus like ignorance,
I
but people
understand. I
fucking
know.
lie. They don't give a hoot. If someone was like, "Hey, you can only vote if you watched 50 anime," and I know for a fact I only watched like 20, I'd be like, "Yeah, but at least if I say no, I'm not a judge on the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. If I say yes,
Well, no.
I'm a judge
You're
on
yeah.
the Crunchyroll Anime Awards.
I'm
Of course, I'm just
I'm
gonna say
saying you're
yes."
already I'm saying you're already selected as a judge. They give you a form as to what you're going to vote on and be like, "Did you watch X amount of romance shows or did you watch X amount of action shows,
I
Yeah.
isekai,
but I
etc."
but I give you
People
my
could
same
Tyler, people could still
Yes,
lie, but like
they
yeah.
could.
at least you're at least asking the question, which is currently there's no question. It's here's the form and you have to pick something. And if
No, no,
you're like
no.
I don't freaking no, but I have to pick.
I agree. I will offer another counterpoint. You get that form, right? Let's say you did watch the prerequisite 50. They're like, "All right, have you watched any action?" Yes. Have you watched any comedy? Yes. Have you watched any other category? No. So your only limited pool that you're eligible to vote on is action and comedy.
In the
I,
genre category.
but I
Yeah.
think that
Yes.
translates over to like the best anime. Because what if the best anime
Yeah,
is
it does.
is one action, one comedy, and then let's just say it's a nice diverse splurge of the other categories, okay? That person is 100% likely to vote for the two that they had eligibility to vote on, either the action one
It's
or the
fair.
comedy one, which
Well, to be
again,
fair, it's
So
probably the only two
let
that
me
they watched.
but my point
Yeah.
is that that person does not have the objective viewpoint to go in and critically identify which one would be which should be voted for as anime of the year based
I
on
see.
how that
Okay.
category is defined. I think, and
So
again,
let me add then, because I think you're correct.
I'm going
Part
to
of and
blow
I
this
didn't
place up.
highlight it.
that,
No, it's fair.
that being my house.
Part of the thing I said earlier and what they used to do is the judges would talk, and other awards that are mostly online have the judges talk. You can't do that if you're voting in 20 categories, and that's part of the rationale of
Yeah.
having people who vote just in a couple is so they can actually get in a small Discord chat of 12 people and talk for a bit. And you
I
cannot do that with 100 judges. And it
I
all comes back to
100
there's too many judges.
100% agree. Here's, I think, how about happy medium? I'll offer, this is my
I love a happy medium.
legal side, my alternative dispute resolution side coming out. Let's try to mediate this as best as possible.
So we don't have to go to court.
The judges that are selected to vote on the majority of the categories, we can consider them to be the same amount. Let's reduce the number in half. 50 seems like a good number. I think that's fair. I think that definitely focuses the pool more so on the quality, less so the quantity of those that can select from. Great. However, they're still limited to just the categories that they would have the most amount of knowledge on, all like those being anime of the year, new anime, returning series, all the different genres. The technical categories, I'm 100% fine if those are left to directors, animators, illustrators
That's fair.
to give their perspective.
There are a few people in news, but yeah, most don't know how to
I
analyze that.
don't
And
need,
I'm counting myself. That's
yeah,
hard.
I don't need fucking Joe Schmoes that don't know the difference between background art and just a keyframe to tell me, oh, this one's the best because it looked the prettiest. I would rather have an illustrator come up, tell me a whole bunch of nonsense that I can't translate, and then I go, cool, I trust you. I'm going to make my objective opinion based on those facts. That is the happy medium I can think of. I still don't think we're ever going to get that though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The core
It is
issue
insanely difficult.
the core issue is again do you want this to be fan community driven, or do you want this to be something that is critical and looked upon in an objective manner? Because you cannot have both. It is a fact that you cannot have both. It is quite literally impossible to bring. People wanted to name that fucking boat, the name the boat. They
Bodie
named it.
McBoatface?
They made it Bodie
Yeah, that was a great
McBoatface.
name.
You can't.
Great
I
name.
think one of the
What are you
other
talking
names
about?
was something that cannot be said online. Okay, like it was okay. Uh, my point being though is that the fans, they're obviously critical. They're the lifeblood of the industry. They're the ones that consume it and provide feedback, and it's great, and we love it, and we're all fans ourselves. We even have biases. Sure, many of us will look at things objectively, but us three, I'm sure, have biases to a degree.
Yeah.
And
So-
we're the ones that watch. We're like, I don't want to sound pompous and egotistical.
We are the less than 1%. Most
Yeah.
people do not watch this much anime.
No,
Because they have other
exactly.
things to do with their time.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not saying this because I'm proud. I'm saying this because I have a problem. But yeah, I mean, like that itself just kind of tells you, like, it's not something that you can leave to the fans. Again, you can argue it's 70-30 for voting in favor of the judges. I reiterate my thoughts on the judges too, right? They're just at its core, they really need to look inward and decide, do we want to keep this community driven? Do we want to keep this with fan involvement? Do we want it to be more of a social interaction amongst those that are fans, avid fans of the industry and the medium? Or do we want this to resemble something that is a critical and looked up upon award ceremony that truly awards those series that have shone brighter than all others in their category, right? That's the decision.
Give my solution? Can I give my solution then?
Sure.
Crunchyroll has both, and this is how.
Steve already said.
George-
Wait, hang on. Don't
No.
take away from
George
Steve.
Wada,
Steve already
George
said
Wa-
this.
No. He did, but differently. He did, but this is different.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yours is different.
So George, you said George Wada was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Wada from Production IG.
He wants
yeah.
he wants to have his own Crunchyroll awards, or not Crunchyroll awards, but anime
Like
awards. in
Japan's
Japan.
awards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think have Crunchyroll sponsor it. They don't have any sort of like hand in doing like in a big award show. They sponsor it in the sense of, we will set everything up. We will send out the voting to the eligible people. And then Japan, we'll put on like the show that you want to put it on. Like, have the studio heads come together and be like, hey, this is how we want our award show presented. Whether it be a big fancy thing like they've been doing, or whether they want it more like a stationary awards where people kind of walk around, look at the different like stationary things, and then by the end of the
what are you
event,
gonna look at the cells? What are you talking about?
I'm saying as
Like the
by the
fucking
end of the
car
event,
show?
they're like, hey, they hand.
Oh, you
out
mean
the
like an Anime
physical
Japan
award.
kind of thing? Like where there's stuff you can look at?
Okay, that was a bad example in the sense that what I'm trying to get at is at the end of the stationary awards, they pretty much bring everybody on, like they tell everybody, hey, here are the winners, we're giving them their awards. And like if they want to have a booth and be like, these are the shows that we worked on, great, they can do that if they want to. I don't know
Frank.
what Japan awards are like, but I think that they have both, and the way that Japan does theirs is just have Crunchyroll sponsor whatever it is that Japan wants to do for their award ceremony.
Frank,
And then what?
I need you to be honest
What do
with
you
me.
want?
Have
do you want?
Have you year to year watched the stationary awards in Japan? Why do you know like you keep bringing up the
Because
stationary awards?
Every
What's going
fucking
on?
year. Every fucking year it appears on my timeline and I get sucked in and I go down a bunny hole as the stationary awards. It's happened for the past 3 years.
See, okay, so
What it is.
you have watched it. That's incredible.
Yes.
I mean, I know that the awards exist, but I digress.
Yeah, what they do is all the stationary people, they put out all their products. You can go. They have exclusives
Okay.
for their products, and
To Steve's
judges go around the whole weekend and vote what their favorites are. And then
how
at
do
the
you
end.
how do you
But
so,
right.
okay, so is what you're saying, and maybe I'm jumping ahead of you, Steve.
What I'm saying is that Japan Crunchyroll sponsors, however, like the studio heads, again, they come together, they figure out how they want to have their ceremony. Crunchyroll just sponsors it. That's how they do the professional side. Fan side, they can have their award ceremony like they've been doing, except minus all the studio heads. Everything is fan driven, everything is fan voted. They have all their, celebrity guest stars, presenters, musicians, etc. They do this big award show, they do their red carpet or orange carpet, and everything on that award ceremony is fan driven. That is how I think that they can do have both. One, they can't really put their name on it. It's just going to be sponsored by Crunchyroll, while the other is the Crunchyroll Awards driven by fans. And I think that that's how they get around all this.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, because that was a lot to follow, you want to basically create a convention that's split in half, where one half of the convention is the industry leaders that are the ones that are actually voting on and presenting the
No,
awards, and the other half
no.
you were talking about people walking around to booths and then them just being like, we worked on this series.
I said it was also a bad fucking example.
You said it though. That's the thing.
I said it was a bad example, and I took it back, and then I said exactly how I thought it should be.
But it's still confusing.
You're
It's still
riling me up.
So no, I'm trying to understand
I'm
it.
you too.
Yeah, go for it. So you want something that Crunchyroll puts their name on, but it is industry driven. Like that's the award ceremony. And then you want another one that is the Crunchyroll Awards, that is the fan operated one.
That is the big awards that they've been doing.
Yeah.
That is like the United States version.
You're saying they stop
US.
pretending it's serious.
Yeah,
they stop pretending
correct.
there's a serious, and they're like, this is the Crunchyroll Popularity Awards with a better name.
They have the Crunchyroll. They have the fan-driven one, which isn't serious, is the Crunchyroll Awards driven by fans, and then they have the serious one, which is the Anime Awards sponsored by Crunchyroll,
presented by whatever. That's fine.
Which is what George Wada wants.
Yeah, which is
George pulls it off and gets that to exist. Yeah,
correct. That is, I think, how Crunchyroll pulls this off in any sort of way to make it like any way acceptable.
Here's my one counterpoint, because my whole argument has always been they have to pick a lane. That's not them picking a lane. That's them double dipping and thinking that they're not gonna confuse the fuck out of people.
That's what they want. They want to double dip. So here's my.
But it's not gonna happen.
But I'm taking. So I didn't come up with this idea. I got it from I think Jason M or Jeremy M. He writes for Anime News Network. Crunchyroll cannot own the Anime Awards because it is inherently unacceptable and unbelievable for a company to run an award show. If the Oscars were run by Warner Brothers, nobody would accept it. Crunchyroll, in your example of like we're just running the powered by Crunchyroll fan vote, whatever. It's like that's like an anime trending awards, cool, whatever. But you inherently, and I'm not even saying they're doing anything wrong. Obviously, we have issues with the way it's run, but I don't think they're maliciously pulling things behind the strings so their shows win. But there's an inherent untrustability to an award show run by one company in that industry. And they're not going to do it, but what they should do if they wanted their award show to be the serious one is they would have to give it up and let it be run independently. They could contribute financially with a bunch of other studios to help it be independent, but them solely running an award show creates an untrustability and an implied bias whether or not it exists.
Yep. No, 1,000% agree.
I would agree with that.
I
would agree with that. I was just presenting what I think Crunchyroll would do if I were inside Crunchyroll HQ and be like, how do we fix this? This is how I would say.
I agree with your idea, because you're correct, Tyler, that you're right. They need to pick a lane, but Crunchyroll obviously would want to have their name on the serious one and like be like, hey, we provided some money to Japan to do it. And I think that's what Frank's saying.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
It shouldn't.
That's
they
fine.
absolutely. George should say no. You cannot do that because no one will trust it. But but you can. You and every other studio can contribute some money so we can set up an independent body to run this. But we're not going to put your name on it. We'll have a list of sponsors,
and that's fine.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's all. I mean, bring up the Oscars again. Obviously, there's donors. Obviously, there's sponsors. Like again, there's going to be influence. Now you hope and guarantee. Well, your hope and you are told guaranteed that it doesn't influence votes. and you would want that to be the same for the anime awards. 100% agree.
They do
Like,
the for your consideration BS, like
yeah,
you know, it's not.
whatever.
There's issues, but
Yeah.
there's at least you don't think one studio is pulling the strings behind the award,
Exactly.
and they're not. But people complained about that this year, even though it's not happening, or there's no evidence whatsoever that that's happening.
And I don't want to say that, like, what I said at the beginning came true, but I mean, at the end of the day, they can't have both. Okay, it's definitively, even in an ideal situation, even if the three of us were running this company, we were over at Sony and we were like, how do we fix this? And this was the solution we came up with. At the end of the day, you still cannot have both. You cannot be a serious award ceremony that prides itself on being unbiased, objective, and critical in their award of these series in an unbiased manner while still labeling it the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, and also have the Crunchyroll Anime Awards presented by the fans. You know, you cannot have both. Okay, so again, what I'm saying is I win. I was right. You cannot have both. Even in the utopian society that we're trying to create this in, you cannot have both. It is physically impossible. Jamiroquai. I don't know why I did his hands earlier. I just thought of Jamiroquai.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I just wasn't going to say anything.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think, but this discussion, this is my final point on this. This discussion lends itself to the fact that we're talking through all these different elements, all these different paths that they can take, and it's great that we're having this conversation. But my biggest issue now is that we're talking about this. We are trying to formulate new ideas. We're trying to discover a path forward. We're working through all of the like but if scenarios, right? I don't have the confidence that Crunchyroll is doing the same right now. I think Crunchyroll is
No.
like looking at this, how they're producing it and going, there's no issue. We fixed the date thing. That was the biggest concern, but there's no real concern from our perspective. Like, I don't get that impression from them. There's like, obviously, we don't get any information until they're like, hey, guess what's coming up soon? The Crunchyroll Anime Awards. Get ready. Your votes start, on this date, blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, that's the only time we hear about it. What I would like and what I would like to see from Crunchyroll is to say, hey, maybe even after every season comes out, right? Just put out something about Crunchyroll Awards. Like, you could have just a random beat writer do like, here are my favorite series that you should be watching that could be up for the Crunchyroll Awards. You can even have like just
They do have their podcasts.
I
mean, not saying that obviously a lot of people listen to it, but I think that's where that's happening right now.
And that's, I mean, like, I'm going to go probably give it a listen now just to kind of get a perspective. I think like retention wise, I usually like to see it something in writing, right? Like I like to put lists down in writing. I like my rankings in writings and stuff like that. But like, but the point being is that having the idea that they're taking this seriously, that they're truly investing time and energy into improving it. Because I don't think they can sit on their laurels, right? Like there's no laurels to rest on. I don't think they're at a point where they can definitively look at it and go, this thing is perfect, move it. And if they are, that's upsetting. And I think it again goes to my pessimistic view of where they're at.
Counterpoint, this was a rousing success for them because the Crunchyroll Anime Awards are ultimately a marketing tool. It got the highest viewership they've ever had. It had the highest interactions because they let people vote daily, which we haven't brought up. And I'll just say, obviously, that's not how you can run an award show.
Nope.
The point of this is to get their name out and to get people to pay attention to the award show. And that's why they prioritize having a bunch of big name guests come, including some of them were good. Some of them you kind of got the vibe that they watched 3 anime this year.
Yeah.
This is a marketing tool for them to further the impression that they are the voice of the Western anime community. And it is doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they're going to consider it a failure. I think they consider it a rousing success.
And I think that in itself is the inherent issue that they're never going to get beyond this idea that this is simply just a popularity contest. This is just fans diving in every day, voting as much as possible, which can we also just put out the idea that maybe fans should only get to vote once entirely?
Yes.
Period.
It's silly that the fans who choose to vote every day of the week, their vote counts more than somebody who is like
mouth breathing.
I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, the mouth breathing people that just reiterate whatever popular thing they see online. Yeah, no, if that is the position, if that's their take again, no press is bad press, all press is good press perspective, I think that
It
they
is.
are failing in their own right in just how people are going to view the Crunchyroll Awards moving forward. I honestly think, I know we say this, I feel like year after year, I think this year is going to be the true indicator of the future for the Anime Awards. I think this year there are a lot more, at least on the current slate that we have airing right now and what we know is to air later this year. We have a lot of series that are new, that are unique, that are not on people's radars, that aren't Bleach or Saga of Tanya the Evil or Mashoko Tensei or whatever, right? Like, listen, Saga of Tanya the Evil got a lot of press, when it came
I
out.
enjoy
Like,
it a lot. I was just like, you named like one of the hottest shows ever, and then you're like Saga of Tiny the Evil. I was like,
just a
I don't
lot
know
of
if they're on the
traction.
same level, but yes.
You'll be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of shows that like fucking when The Devil is a Part-Timer came out. Second season was total garbage. Still somehow got nominated, I believe, for a category, and I'm like, how?
Correct.
How? That show was horrible. It's just because people that loved it watched it again and they were like, nostalgia. Oh, it's back, whatever. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I think this is a great year for anime that don't have the hard hitters like Attack on Titan. They don't have My Hero Academia. The only one they have right now is Jujutsu Kaisen. Bleach always gets fucking just thrown to the wayside, which is horrendous in itself because I think the 1,000-Year Blood War is an incredible arc. But this is going to be, in my mind, the determining year of like, okay, can we truly go into the awards in an objective mindset and truly, truly award those that deserve the categories to win? Or are we just going to return back to, hey, here are the X amount of shows that I know. I'm just going to vote for these. By God, others be damned, even if they're more deserved for this category. I don't care. These are what I'm picking. That's going to be harder and harder this season, given the current slate of series that are airing. So this will be
I can tell you now, no, it won't happen. Which cat will get nominated because it got views. Did I tell you about the game I played this year that works perfectly and will also work perfectly next year?
Go ahead.
You before they announce each winner, you look at the nominees. You pick the show that got the highest viewer numbers, which is hard to get. There's a podcast or two I listen to with someone who does the marketing data, so you know like what the top 6 watch shows were. And the top watch show, I 93% of the nominees I picked correctly by just picking the show that got watched the most. Because ultimately, if something gets 10 million views versus a show that's really good that got 500,000 views, the 500,000 view show cannot win with a fan vote. And the only ones I got wrong were My Hero winning Best Anime, and that because I didn't account for the nostalgia factor. I'm pretty sure that's why people picked it, but it didn't win any of its other categories. And Solo Leveling lost 1. And I was like, okay, wow. I guess some people thought maybe we gave them too many last year. Every other category was like, oh yeah, Apothecary Diaries is in this one. That was the second most watched show of the year. It's gonna win its category.
Look,
and then it just worked down the list.
Steve, this is the start of a new week, and I have a tough week ahead. I was trying to end on some bit of optimism, and
I'm sorry. Maybe it'll be different next year.
my cup
here's
is
your
not only
optimism.
empty.
Nope.
My cup
Here's
was
your
shattered.
optimism. We are moving on. 3 years ago, there were 6 shows that won a majority of the awards. Last year, there were 7 shows that won a majority of the awards. This year, there were 8 shows that won a majority of the awards. So we are getting some progress. We are moving the fuck on now. On to our second topic.
No,
which
the last
honestly,
topic. It's a combination of the two.
Well, no,
You're
this
combining.
one. Okay, I don't know about a combination of the two.
I'm segueing
Anyways,
it. Watch my
okay, I know how
skills.
you're gonna segue it too. Today / yesterday, I don't even remember at this point. My
Doesn't matter.
brain is mush. Crunchyroll got rid of 6 more anime from their streaming site. They got rid of Orange, Barakamon, Blood Blockade Battlefront, Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions, Roka, Brave of the 6 Flowers, and As the Gods Will. They got rid of 6 more on top of the fact that they've already gotten rid of a few more shows earlier this year, which Black Lagoon was one of them. And I don't know if 86 was earlier this year, or if that was last year, but they've also gotten rid of 86, which is a generally well-received show and relatively a recent show too.
Mm-hmm.
All these shows now, if you Google them, you're not going to be able to watch them for legal means. Yes, you can watch them sailing the high seas. Again, we're not going to condone that. We completely understand why people do it, but we're not going to condone it. But understandable. However, I know how you're going to tie this in. You're going to tie this into the Crunchyroll store and how physical media now is probably it needs to be bought. It really needs to be bought and preserved because at this point nothing is a given.
Yep.
Crunchyroll store, this is our kind of other topic that we wanted to talk about. I made a short video on it last week about how frustrated I was. Crunchyroll is now barring their store from the average user, let alone free user, from shopping on their store. It'll be locked behind the ultimate and mega tier subscription models, which is a whopping $15, $14 a month. $14 a month for the lowest subscription to get access to their store. The fan model, which is $8 a month, and the lowest subscription tier you can get, will not have access. So there is a $6 gap between the lowest tier and the tier you need in order to access the store. I made a video as to how fucking stupid this is and how greedy of an option this is. Because there are people who do have to sail the high seas because they don't have the $8 a month to get a fan subscription in order to watch these shows. But when they do save up their pennies, they can buy a book or they can buy, a fucking show, like a Blu-ray show for whatever they like. Now they
Or
won't
a
have that
figure
option.
and all the other stuff on the store.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everything.
Now they are biggest, whatever. They're fucking thrown to the wolves, in which they now have to deal with Amazon, Barnes and Noble, basically for a majority of their things. I still say shop local where you can. I do think that you should. I made a video. I called out 3 smaller manga shops that I think that you should look into and give them your business. Hell, there's an anime store down the street from me that has some DVDs, not really a manga selection, but they have a fuck ton of figures and they do Gunpla as well. So it's just like I know where I can go to get my figures in Gunpla, but now it's just like for the average person, it's just like where do you go? And I want to open this up with other than like I don't necessarily want to talk about Crunchyroll blocking this from the average user because of how fucking greedy this is, and that's the only way you can attribute to what they're doing. But I want to, open this up to positivity and say, where do you guys think that people should go to get their physical media now?
Oh.
Oh,
I
I got a couple.
it threw me off. Yeah.
Sentai Filmworks, G Kids, Media OCD, and God, I'm forgetting the fourth one. That's kind of similar to Media OCD. There are smaller, in the sense that like Crunchyroll bought Right Stuff, which was huge. So like inherently they had the
Right.
biggest one that they're now shrinking.
Mhm.
There are other smaller companies that comparatively that were putting out media that are all working to fill in that gap. Especially Media OCD is really working hard to fill in that gap. It's going to take time, but Right Stuff was arguably the best company in the Western world regarding getting any physical media, manga, Blu-rays, figures, etc.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's a horrible loss for all of us, but that means there's a huge gap. And Crunchyroll Sony is thinking quarterly and cutting costs and just in time and not storing all that stuff anymore. But that means somebody else can recognize, hey, a ton of fans want these things. Let's start grabbing those licenses.
I'm gonna give a canned answer and just say if you can find local stores, please do shop there. The ones that we listed in the video are small stores that have an online presence, which are really hard to find. So if you can shop locally, do. Otherwise, stores like Books a Million, they usually do a really good job with their manga. They have manga sales. I know, like these are bigger box stores, we'll call them. Kinokuniya is also a good one. If you have some locally, again, this is kind of a cop out answer as well. If you even have just a small convention that comes to your area, usually there's a handful of stores, local stores that'll come in and sell manga. So you can always go there. I know it costs, usually there's a cost of entry to get to the cons, but I think there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can go find manga, anime figures, Blu-rays, everything alike, without having and being
Manga
forced to go through Amazon or, big retailers.
Manga's easier because you can get manga from the publishers at
Yep.
least. That you don't have the licensing issue.
That too.
Anime is really where you have the licensing issue, and Crunchyroll unfortunately owns a lot of licenses.
Yeah.
Discotek's the other company, and
Okay.
if you can't buy it new, Book Off.
Yep, Book Off is a good one too.
Book Off is a good way to get great secondhand copies of things if you're looking for something older that might be out of print.
There are you do have to pay obviously the price of overseas shipping, but if you like figures, Ami does do international shipping. They're huge in Japan. I there's plenty of creators that have done unboxings of some of the figures that they've gotten, and they have like
a Ami USA now, so there is stuff
they were
starting
at
to come
Anime
over.
Expo.
They
did a big thing at Anime Expo.
Yeah. And I know like they have a Book Off actually that opened up near me too. So they are opening up Book Offs as well domestically. So yeah, just anywhere you can shop locally if you can, do so. Real quick, I'm gonna do an exercise with you both before I forget this. I need you both to put on your conspiracy theory hats real quick. Just put them on. Put them on. Put them on.
Is the one I already have on enough? Or
yeah,
do I
it's
need
fine. That's fine. At least spin the little wheel on top. Spin the little. There you go. There you go. So, Sony owns Crunchyroll. Right?
They
Correct?
Do? What?
Is that the conspiracy?
No.
That's news to me.
Sorry. Sony owns Funimation, which acquired Crunchyroll. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
What else does Sony also? What else does Sony also own that has recent news that came out?
Alamo
Did you read my
Jaffa?
video script?
No, not Alamo Jaffa.
PlayStation. The
PlayStation.
PlayStation.
And what are they doing with PlayStation? Oh, they're removing physical discs.
And they took away hundreds of digitally owned films that people had that, hey, you paid to license to borrow that, and now it's gone.
Weird. So here's my big conspiracy theory, because when I looked up the 6 series that you listed, Frank, that have been removed, which again, we say removed like it was done in a very not
dramatic fashion. No, they were just kind of under the radar. Just somebody noticed that they were gone.
They didn't.
They didn't tell us, but it wasn't done in a malicious manner, right? Most likely, what happened was they didn't have the license anymore. Okay.
Yeah,
that happens. Now, here's the other aspect. Let's say somehow you were to buy the digital version of that anime through, let's just say, Apple, okay? Because Apple's been notorious with this with iTunes and stuff. If Apple were to ever lose or not renew that license, your digital purchase would disappear because you don't own the rights to it like you do a physical copy. So here's my big conspiracy theory. And I honestly almost want to elevate this to a true hypothetical situation that I believe could happen. I think Crunchyroll is going to start diving into the rental and purchase of digital licenses for series. I truly believe that.
Does and YouTube do, etc.
So I think the biggest and weirdest thing is that
you pay to have it for a little bit.
I think Crunchyroll is going to start gearing more towards not monopolizing, because I think it's almost impossible to do so now with all the different streaming sites, but I think their biggest draw for their subscription is going to be the store, which they've already put behind the paywall, and the immediate streaming of new series that are airing in Japan. But let's say there's a series that only aired a year ago. I think they're going to start removing those, putting it behind if you want this, you need to rent or purchase it digitally. And they're only going to focus heavily on the streaming aspect.
So the PlayStation Store model for films essentially.
Yep, exactly. I think they're going to be like, we're going to effectively separate this new subscription model to be, do you want to be able to stream new series as they're airing? Okay, here's your category. Do you just want to have access to anime? Okay, here's your category. Do you want both? Here's your category. And I think they're going to start putting more and more series that they're losing their licenses, or at least their licenses are expiring later, behind you have to either rent or buy them digitally. I 100% think that that's where they're going now, especially given the news about the PlayStation model changing. Because, again, conspiracy theory as a whole, the model is changing. I don't see there being any reason not to try to replicate that to their other industries.
So one hole to put a pin in, or to put a pin and make a hole in one of your arguments, in the fact that
Don't touch
PlayStation,
my
they're
holes.
going away. I'll make a new one. No, I know that they're going away from physical media for the PlayStation, which does suck. As somebody who plays a majority of their single player games on PlayStation, um,
Same.
yeah, like my whole wall over here, you can see manga behind me. The whole other wall over here is all just video games. The one thing that they did say, because Sony is one of the major, I don't have a figure, I don't have a percentage, but I do know for a fact that Sony produces majority of the Blu-ray discs, not even players, but discs themselves, whether it's for video games or Blu-ray movies. They produce the discs, and they've already said that they're not going to exit that storefront. I still think that they are going to make physical copies of these, because physical copies still sell in Japan, and that is the main way that studios still make their money back. But I do think that they will stop making as many series in the United States comparatively to what they have in the past.
I
I don't- I
1000%.
do-
That is their plan.
Yeah.
That is their
Like, they are-
stated plan with reducing the size of the warehouse, is to only focus on their biggest selling titles. Meaning, if they have the license to, like, let's say JJK and Odd Taxi, they're not going to make a Blu-ray for Odd Taxi because it's
They did.
not selling what JJK is selling.
The-
I'm not
Odd
saying they
Taxi has a
own those two.
Blu-ray.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm talking like discs for anime.
my
No,
counterpoint to that.
I know. Anyways.
No, you're good. My counterpoint to that, and again, this is all purely conjecture based on current trends that we're seeing in news that's coming out. Okay. But I truly and honestly believe that they would simply look at that and go, those are two separate things. We're going to try, like, they're not going to get rid of Blu-rays. Okay. Even though the Blu-ray industry is by comparison to Japan, insignificant here. Like, Blu-ray sales here don't do anything. Blu-ray sales in Japan do, like, wildly better in comparison. Okay, that I don't think is going to change. And there's also a collectability piece to it too, with steelbooks and special editions and stuff. Okay, that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, I believe that they're going to start transitioning to a model where once an anime is like a year old, they're just going to put it behind okay, here is a digital version. Because I don't want to be very pedantic about this, but everyone is able to stream. They don't need a PlayStation or an Xbox to do so. If you do, great. But not everyone has a Blu-ray player. This guy does not own a Blu-ray player. I don't own a console.
It's my PlayStation. I gotta get a new one.
I want to
no,
fucking.
you were gonna send me one. You were gonna send me one.
I was gonna send you a PlayStation.
I'm not accepting a PlayStation 4. I'm not accepting a PlayStation 4. No, that's too much. I digress. The point being, though, is that the mindset or the mentality is, if you're watching Crunchyroll, you're either watching it on a computer, a smart TV, your phone, a tablet. You don't need to have a gaming console, meaning that most likely than not everyone that's watching or streaming Crunchyroll has the ability to watch Blu-rays. So separate them. Separate those two parts of the market. You separate them into the ones that have Blu-ray players that, if for whatever reason their series is not online, they'll just go and buy the Blu-ray, with the ones that don't and go, ooh, here's something convenient. I can rent the series or I can buy the series, and just does it that way. They're going to start segmenting it more and more as their entire business model to, here are the streaming pieces for all the series that are airing and have recently aired. Here are the digital purchasing ones where I can either rent or buy. And this could include movies too. I think they can easily start diving deeper and deeper into the movies, because I don't know if you guys have ever looked on the Crunchyroll streaming site. They have so little movies compared to like Amazon, Hulu,
And they're
Netflix.
all hidden. They're all
They're
hidden
all
within like the series page. So it's like
yes. Well,
recently watching.
especially if it's series related. Yeah.
Yeah, like watching Reincarnated as a Slime, it's like every freaking time I end a new episode, the OVAs come up for like that I've
Mhm.
already pushed watch as read. But it's like
Yeah.
next up, I'm gonna autoplay it if you don't click out. And it's just like that part is frustrating as well.
So,
But that's slightly besides the point.
but I think again the larger conspiracy theory that I have, and again I part of me does genuinely fear that they could go this way, is that they're going to segment more and more of their model to be specific to those different audiences. Because generally speaking, everyone was kind of grouped into this. Do you watch anime? Great. Here's Crunchyroll. Here's Funimation. Now you're getting into a bunch of different streaming sites. How do you differentiate yourself when you're competing against? I know Crunchyroll is still the premier. Well, even though Netflix has apparently topped them now for the most popular for stream. I know. Everyone's skeptical.
No, not skeptical. It's intentional messing with data. It's not correct,
Yeah.
but they're tweaking the
Yes.
data to make that correct.
It's because Netflix has more subscribers to it, and they
Yeah,
just so
yeah,
happen to have anime
And if they
on
watch
there.
one show, they watched an anime. Yeah,
yeah.
it's cheating the
It's dumb.
numbers, but yeah.
But so now it's okay. How do we differentiate ourselves? How do we make it so that way we're viewed as the no questions asked, barred best site for anime? Period. End conversation. I think you start segmenting.
Can I make your conspiracy a little more likely? Because you're using the renting, which they could totally do, but
Go for
an
it.
easier thing that not only could they do, they've just demonstrated they will do, is they'll just put it behind mega fan and super fan. They have
Yeah.
paid tiers, and they're like, hey, if you're in our higher paid tier, you get access to the store. And then the next one is, hey, if you want to watch old anime, you got to have a higher paid
And
subscription. with
Which
they
that
already
I
do that with PlayStation as well, where
yeah.
it's just like, hey, you
Yeah.
you have basic PlayStation Plus, you can play online. You have the next tier up, great. You have a collection of essential games that are on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. You have the highest tier, you can play all said, everything below.
You
Plus,
get
here's our
blockade. It
classic.
turns out we didn't give up the license. We're just hiding it behind Megafan, and we haven't told you yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think,
Yeah.
and I think that point goes to what you could categorize what I was saying as being just more paywalls,
Yeah.
more barriers, right? Like pushing something to being a only purchasable or rentable, like digitally, is still considered. That's a paywall, right? Even if it's
yeah.
not strictly behind like a subscription itself, that's still a barrier. Whereas before you had full access to it, like you would, like right now, as Crunchyroll currently stands on this date of our Lord 7/20/2026 at 10:32 p.m. And I say this because anything could happen whenever when it comes to Crunchyroll.
Also, if Crunchyroll, if you're watching this now and that wasn't your thought, please don't fucking
Yeah,
take this
don't.
note.
We're not saying
Do
this is a
not
good
Oh,
thing.
take
this is
this
a
note.
No, this is horrid.
This is a terrible business strategy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it
no,
is. It is a terrible
it's
business
only
strategy.
it's
You will lose
very
so many subscribers.
exclusionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm interested in seeing and monitoring as I mean, we'll give it a year and a half because I don't think you're going to see any immediate impact as substantial as you would probably a year from now. Will be, does the market fail, or are they going to utilize this as a leverage or a jumping point to do something else with the store? Again, partly the reason why my brain went digitalize it, right? You got they didn't renew the lease for the warehouse, so they're already doing their massive sales to just empty out things. Does that mean they're going to go more digital? Who knows? They're putting the store behind a paywall. More of an indicator that they could go digital. Who knows? Right? The question is, are these small steps to a greater goal, or are these purposeful measures that they're taking in order to just ensure that they're, I don't know, staying competitive? That one's harder to
They're
argue for. I think it's more of the former that I
it's
truly do think
definitely
they're leading to
purposeful.
something. It's purposeful, but I mean it from the standpoint of like they could take each action independent of the other. Like they could not have renewed the lease for the warehouse for the reason that they want to lease a warehouse somewhere else where it's cheaper or better for transport. Who knows, right? They
Which,
could
to
have
be
put the
fair, I think
store.
Right Stuff was based out in the middle of nowhere. Like, isn't it like South Dakota or something like that, or not South
something
Dakota, but
like that. It was
Montana.
meant to be
Yeah.
somewhat central and cheap, and it was kind of a centralized location.
So they could be, they could be
Centralized.
changing it for that reason, right? Putting the store behind the subscription. They could be making more exclusive stuff for subscribers. Who
Grimes,
knows,
Iowa,
right?
by the way.
The point
Yeah.
is that those decisions could be independent of one another. I think, and I fear that it's this is more of the trending way that it is that they are interconnected to some greater thing. That greater thing, who knows yet? My mind went to
If your
digitization, but it could be something else.
if your conspiracy is correct, I would assume rather than a year and a half, 2 to 2.5. And the reason I say that is, in that scenario, I would imagine they're doing the PlayStation thing as a test, and it won't be until partway through 2028 when they see if it actually impacts
Well,
people leaving them. Like, because they do it, if that succeeds and they're like, hey, almost nobody stopped buying PlayStation stuff, we're fine. Then they'd be like, cool, do it with Crunchyroll.
I
I think that's a little small of a difference here in the sense that PlayStation, you need physical hardware, and they're about to launch in the next year or two the PlayStation 6, which at the
Right,
rate
which I
that
will not
things are
be buying,
going,
by the way. I'm
right.
one of those people
But at
being like, I'm not getting it.
but at the rate that things are going, like nobody's going to be able to afford one unless take a fucking loan out to get it.
hell,
Because
That's
right
yeah.
true.
now, a
That's fair.
PlayStation Pro is $900, if not
Yeah.
more. So it's just like I don't know if that necessarily we're kind of comparing a little bit
It's
of
apples
apples
to
to oranges
oranges.
in
Yeah,
this,
that's fair. I forgot about the
but
cost piece of it.
yeah, like because there is a buy-in for the PlayStation ecosphere, whatever you want to call it. But anime, you could just
It's
on
on
your
your
phone, on your computer,
Yeah.
on your TV, etc., on your Roku.
It
Hell, I've been watching it on Roku recently because I've been biking more often. But yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a difference there, and I do think that there is some merit to what you're saying, Tyler. And I think that we are gonna, assuming that PlayStation was kind of the test subject for this, in the sense that yeah, it's been about 2 years since they changed their subscription status for having all the different tiers. We might see that happen with anime. I'd wager that it would happen within the next year. I don't think they wait 2 years for this. I
I
think it happens next year.
the time period was more of a reactionary period. I think they do have an
Right.
appetite to some degree to at least receive feedback. Usually it's done through the screams of online comments from fans. But I
Mhm.
said a year and a half more so from the perspective of, are they going to see any significant reaction from fans that from a quantitative aspect they can attribute to the decision they've made to put the store behind the paywall, right? Or to reduce their inventory for their online market, or whatever their next step is. Are they able to quantifiably look at it and go, this is hurting our business, or we're seeing no significant impact to our business? In which case, then they transition to, okay, here's our next phase, right? Again, assuming that there's more to come, which I do believe that there will be. So
When was it
yeah,
last year that they got rid of the free tier where you can watch shows free, but it had to be the most current episode?
I
Because I
want
know
to.
that they got rid of it, but I just can't
Yeah.
remember when.
It was recent. I don't know if it was specifically last year or the year before, but it's pretty recent.
You
Within the last 2 years, we can call it.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I to this degree, and if we're gonna have our conversation be about, like, having the tier system, I'm placing my bet on next year. I don't think that the store really matters too much to them, in the sense that, yes, while this was a secondary thing that they bought after buying Crunchyroll, I don't think that putting it behind a paywall is just gonna, I don't know how much the free users, people who watch anime illegally, let alone the fan tier subs, how much they were actually purchasing. I'm sure they have marketing statistics on the back end. They probably did it for a reason that they're like, hey, we're only going to lose about 7% of our customer base or 10% of our customer base. We can deal with that as long as we can, bump up our subscription to the higher tier by like 2 to 5%. That enough will, make up for the difference of losing that amount. I think that that's why they did this decision. I think that them hiding shows behind tiers is an inevitable. Whether it happens next year or in 2028, I unsure. I would bet 2027 because again, they got rid of the fan
You,
tier in 2 years ago, a year ago. They're gonna just do one bad thing a year essentially, and I think next year that is their bad decision. They've made their piss poor decision right now in this stupid fucking decision for the store. I know they probably have the marketing analysis on the back end to prove why it's a good idea, but it's exclusionary, and I think that next year their bad decision will be the tier subscriptions and having shows behind paywalls, whether it be the brand spanking new anime or if it is the IPs that don't get enough love. But that's my thought on that. But I think that Crunchyroll losing these 6 shows specifically this past week, I don't think that there's anything really like the only cause of alarm here is like, hey, this is why we buy physical media. This is why you should buy physical media. One site that we did not plug that I'm actually going to plug because they don't have a ton of anime on here, but they do have some. I was able to get my copy of Angel's Egg off of Orbit DVD. I was able to get my copy the week before that G Kids was like, we're releasing it too in the United States. And I'm like, fucking now you're gonna say that you're gonna release the 4K Blu-ray after I bought it a week later? And then I found out that G Kids' version, while it's a collector's edition and comes with an art book, it's $10 more, and I don't necessarily fucking need another art book in this house. So I'm just like, great, whatever. I bought it, I'm fine. But Orbit DVD, if you like smaller films, they have a fuck ton. Like they are a big indie like movies and anime type. I won't even say anime. They have some animation on there, but they do have a lot of older things. Like I remember looking through their website like a week or so ago, and they had what is the cursed cat movie from our childhood that I cannot remember off the top of my head. Fuck, that's gonna bug me.
My brain.
No, it wasn't cat. It was bunny. It was the bunny fucking animation that was cursed when we were kids. Even
Happy
further back
Happy
than when
Tree
we were kids.
Friends.
No, no. I'll
It's like that's
find
not
it
an anime.
after the fact and no, I'll find it after the fact and let you guys know. But like they have like random like very old and kind of newer niche videos on there and I do greatly appreciate that, especially as somebody who's going to the movies a lot more. Like I'm very excited for whenever the invite comes out physically because that movie was incredible. But yeah, I digress. Crunchyroll's making some baffling decisions and I get why. It's all at the end of the day, it's money.
Mm.
It's short term. How do we increase our profits and hope for the best in the future that it stays profitable? But yeah, I don't know.
I'll just add something that I've been discussing with some other people and I want to make a video about, which is people comment obviously and react to all this negative news. And there's two categories of people roughly, and one of them unfortunately doesn't matter, and that's people who are not customers. If you're pirating anime currently and you are not a Crunchyroll customer, they don't care what you have to say online. You can make a noise, but like Sony's so big, it's not going to do anything. What
Yeah.
matters is customers changing behavior, and that's what they look at. If they lose paying customers to let's say they do this and they say, hey, we're sticking every anime that's older than a year behind Superfan. If you cancel your subscription because of that, they look at that. They don't care about people who aren't paying complaining. That doesn't hurt them at all.
Yes.
I'm
Two
doing.
things. One, yeah, you do your mind control freak 90s 2000s hand
Fred
movements.
Durst.
Fred Durst hand movements. Two things. One, the movie I was thinking of was Watershed Down.
Don't care.
Yep.
Was
Anyways,
not going to get that.
yep. And then number two, on the topic of paying customers, like as somebody who is a paying customer for Crunchyroll, who has bought a fuck ton off of the Crunchyroll store because I loved Right Stuff and it was essentially it just was Right Stuff still just it was rebranded. Like the way they shipped everything, the way it was packaged, everything was the same. It came from the same warehouse, etc. As somebody who is a paying customer, I am going to be like skeptical for the fact that in the article when they announced that everything was, changing or that it was going behind the subs, they are getting rid of theoretically the discounts that we were getting with those subscription tiers. And that's my
Mhm.
biggest piece is what is that going to look like for people who were on that buying end of like, am I still going to get things at a discount or is everything going to be like MSRP? And then it's just like at that point, no, I might as well just go to fucking Barnes and Noble and get things for like $2 cheaper, or go to my local store, and buy it at MSRP.
So the point that I'll make as my final point, connecting what you said, Steve, and what you just said, Frank, is I think even just going down a subscription level, like if you're at the highest to the second highest, like I did, or even if you're like, you know what, F the store, I just need to stream, those numbers matter too. Like you can certainly say,
Yeah.
pound sand, kick rocks, Sony, I'm not doing this anymore with your BS, and cancel altogether. And that's a decision in itself. And I think that does certainly travel the distance to kind of have them, in their figures see, okay, we've seen a dip in subscribers. But I think what's the most impactful is just saying, why am I spending $6 extra a month for basically just getting access to a store? Fuck that noise.
Yeah.
I'm just going down to the $8.99. Like if they see a precipitous drop in their higher tiers because of this decision, that alone should send a message to them to go, eesh, that's probably not a good sign for what's to come. We might have to reevaluate, right? I mean, in
It
theory,
happened last year
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. When they were
with the subtitling. Yeah,
it happened with the
I canceled
subtitling.
my subscription. Yep, and a bunch of people did, and they internally said we got to backtrack this. We'll revisit later. They're going to revisit later, but they backtracked on it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then I renewed.
Yeah. And if you're an idiot like myself and you buy for the year, it's not worth changing right now. But I am making a note
Yeah.
of when it renews because I have a Barnes and Noble subscription. I shop at Book Off. I shop at Books a Million. We have a place called Second and Charles, which is also great near me. They're like secondhand
I'm so
store.
jealous. You have a Second and Charles. The place is fucking awesome.
It's great. I love it. I need to go there
But I
more
do
often.
have a Kinokuniya.
Yeah, you have a Kinokuniya. But I have options. So like I could also just look at it and say, screw you. Like I'm just gonna go down in subscription. If a number of people do that, to your point about the subtitling piece, that will send a message. Now the question is always, will that be received? Or are they just gonna put us on red and just deal with the repercussions because the business model suggests that they're still gonna make a profit? That's always the risk you run, right? So
Yep.
That's why, again, I gave it a year and a half because I truly believe that people will look to their current subscriptions and go, is it worth the extra $6-7 a month to go from this tier to that tier just for a store? Do the benefits outweigh the costs? And if a majority of people say no, the benefits certainly aren't there, then Crunchyroll is going to have to make the decision. Do you stick to your guns, eat the decision you made, with your shit-eating grin, and just go, you know what? That was a bad decision, but we're sticking to it? Or do you walk it back, go, oopsie poopsie, we're dumb, our bad, and make the necessary changes? That's kind of bottom line. That's where we're at.
Steve, any final thoughts?
I can't even remember everything we discussed. I know there's a lot of potential negativity. We tried to add some positive points to it. I think the biggest thing, which we kind of ended with, is like we do have some power as consumers. It's making your voice heard with your wallet, and it's looking for other companies providing a service that you want to get. And we named a bunch of them, and there are more. Go out and look for those companies that are filling these gaps. Because it is a gap in consumer demand, and somebody will find a way to supply that.
Yep, absolutely agree. Steve, thank you for joining us this week. Can you let the people know, whoever is listening to this, where they can find you if they want to keep up with you?
Yeah, I'm at BeSteveBrown on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I kept it consistent.
Wonderful. And we will have that in the description below. Thank you all for joining us this week. We greatly appreciate you listening week in, week out. If you made it this far, wonderful. Thank you very much. If you didn't, you're not even listening to this. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. But if you want more of us, please go follow us on social medias at Baka&Co Podcast, wherever you get your social media feeds. I've been Frankfurter. That's been Magically Average. And our guest, Steve. Until next time, Spark Triumph. We'll see you then.